In the second episode of Console Madness, we saw one of the biggest upsets in video game history. The Nintendo Wii took out the Sega Genesis. We have taken our lashings in the comment section, and we stand behind our decision. We also seen the Nintendo Switch come out victorious over our beloved Sega Dreamcast. In today's episode, we have the Nintendo GameCube facing off against the Sony PlayStation and the PlayStation 3 versus the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Saddle up, folks. Some of you are about ready to get pissed off. But as we always say, it's better to be pissed off than pissed on.
Gaming off the grid, boom shakalaka!
We're back. Welcome to episode 3 of Console Madness. This series has gotten way more difficult than I anticipated.
Yes, and it's pissing a lot of people off, and I kind of like it.
I love the debate back and forth because there's a lot of times there's no right answer, and all we're trying to do in this series is if we had to be left in our game room with one console, had to get rid of them all, what would that console be? Today, we are seeing the GameCube square off against the PlayStation 1 and the PS3 against the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Let's start off with this first matchup. Let's go with the console that came out first. Okay. So the PlayStation 1 came out in 1995. It was an awesome time. Music, great times, great history, and that's where this console means a lot to me. I didn't own a PS1 till later in life, but I had a neighbor that had one, and it just seemed like the demos, the games, I just remember thinking it was so freaking cool.
I remember my stepdad had a PS1, and it was so awesome playing it. I didn't even know what it was, because I had the NES, my stepdad had the PS1, I had the N64, that was it, and the PS1, I was like blown away. The amount of games, the diversity of the games, I was like, dude, this console is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the exclusives on it, I'm just off the top of my head here, you know, the Driver series I was obsessed with, the Twisted Metal games I was obsessed with. I loved the sports games too. I know they maybe haven't dated the best, but you know, your Game Days and your Maddens, and I just was obsessed with it. Metal Gear Solid is one of my favorite games ever made.
That game might be the tipping point. But let's talk about the GameCube now. The GameCube was released in 2001. It's my favorite controller, favorite type of games, but the console itself, kind of cool. I do love it, but you can play it on the Wii.
Yeah, so I think these consoles, in a similar regard, have that fate, possibly, as this bracket goes along, because neither one of them are very highly collectible from a console standpoint, not from the game standpoint, because there was backwards compatibility. That really came into play, you know, on the PS2 and then actually the GameCube to the Wii, as you just mentioned. So this is unique because we got to kind of isolate these in a vacuum.
Which is so tough. Man, so I love the GameCube. I love the controller. But the PS1, all the games on it, Metal Gear Solid especially, dude. And, though we haven't went down the rabbit hole yet, there's a lot of Gun-Con games on the PS1. Yes, there is, light gun games.
Yeah.
And we love the Gun-Con. Yeah. I'm excited to play some Gun-Con games on the PS1, but we haven't yet. This is so tough. This might be the hardest decision I've had to make so far in the bracket, because I love both these consoles.
Yeah.
And in a vacuum, it's so tough because of backwards compatibility. But I think, as much as I love the GameCube, I think I'm leaning towards the PlayStation 1.
I mean, I think if you just go head-to-head on them, because that's really in this matchup is what we got to think, because there is no playing anything else on them. I gotta go that way, and I maybe wouldn't have thought we would have went there because we love Luigi's Mansion, you know, Mario Sunshine, Mario Strikers is one of our favorite games to play together.
Oh, dude, Mario Strikers,
Double Dash.
Okay, you didn't bring that up. Mario Strikers, dude, one of the best soccer games ever made.
You know, one of the last games that I went hard on RPGs on was on the PlayStation 1, and Final Fantasy VII and Parasite Eve are two of my favorite games that I've ever played. I kind of got out of RPGs after this. This was kind of the swan song time for me just because I got busy. You know, I didn't have the time to sink into a game like that. But I think your initial statement, though, I think the PlayStation 1 has to win
I think it does. And initially, I was going to say the GameCube, but in a vacuum, PS1 has to win, which sucks. I'm never going to be able to play the GameCube controller again.
It's tough because if you think about, we're maybe eliminating the console from the game room, does it take its controllers with it? Because then we can't use the controllers on other consoles. I don't know if that comes into play.
Well, there's a GameCube controller that was officially released for the Switch, so that doesn't quite count.
Okay.
So
PlayStation 1 wins this round. It moves on, and it is going to face the winner of the next matchup, which we are going to see the Super Nintendo against the PS3. Let's start again here with the first console released. Super Nintendo, released in 1991. This is, 3 years before you were born?
Yes, it was. And I didn't play one growing up. I didn't have one growing up. The Super Nintendo was a new love for me. And man, it is incredible. The games, the controller, everything about the Super Nintendo is fantastic. I still play it so much today.
Yeah, it's a great console. And I think speaking to, how great some of these retro consoles are, they're getting new life with the mini consoles. And I think the Super Nintendo is possibly the best mini that has been released as well. That's for another episode. But this is another console I didn't own during its prime time. I got my Super Nintendo when all the other kids were getting an N64. That's kind of how I grew up. I was always behind, but I felt like I got more games because of that, because it was a little cheaper, right? But I love the Super Nintendo. Up until this year, it was a landslide my favorite console of all time. That discussion's maybe got a little murky because of some of the other consoles we've been diving into. And it's going against the PS3.
Let's talk about the PS3. I remember when the PS3 came out. I never had one initially, too, growing up. I went from PS2 to PS4. But the PS3 was awesome. It offered free online, which that's hard to debate in this battle. But it was so cool in the moment. It was so awesome. I loved all the games on it. Twisted Metal on it. Oh, fantastic game.
I think it's the best one of the series.
NBA Jam.
You were on the 360 train during
this
time,
I was.
Right? Yeah. So I remember getting the PS3. It was so hard to find one. My cousin, one of my best friends, he went to the military and he came back, literally took his leave just because Metal Gear Solid 4 came out, and he bought the PS3 for me and that game, and we played it straight through without sleeping.
Damn.
And that was a long game. So, love the PS3. We fire our PS3 up all the time. We're playing a season right now on stream. You guys have probably seen NBA Jam On Fire Edition, the Twisted Metal game we play all the time. There's a lot of games on the PS3. It's so good.
House of the Dead 4.
It's the Super Nintendo, man.
I know. It's so hard. There's so many great games on the PS3, but one thing that does suck is the controller, even though the controller isn't that bad. But I know it's not the greatest. The Super Nintendo, it's a perfect console. The Super Nintendo is so good.
And the Super Nintendo controller, is maybe one of the best ones ever. I think I like the GameCube one a little bit more.
A little bit better, but the Super's, it just feels great.
I just can't picture us not being able to go through the Super Nintendo library. Yes, there's access to the games on the Switch, which is something we have to consider because we're going down to one console. But there's tons of games that I would maybe say are hidden gems that maybe aren't on the SNES Mini or the Nintendo Switch Online library that we have back here that we play a lot. So,
man, this is tough.
Super Nintendo?
I think we have to go Super Nintendo, and Nintendo's been dominating this bracket, but Nintendo's great, okay? So Sega fanboys, calm down.
So moving on is the Super Nintendo to face the PlayStation 1.
Oh my god.
In the next round.
I'm not looking forward to that.
It is what it is.
Yeah, that's...
I guess going into this, I would have thought the GameCube would have won.
That's what I was thinking too, but in a vacuum, with the PS1 did win.
Yeah.
And this competition is so hard.
It's a mindfuck.
It's so much harder than you think it is.
That matchup, though, is so similar in those regards to those two consoles because they don't probably stand a chance long-term in the competition because of the backwards compatibility where we could still play those games without that console. But, guys, that's it. That's episode 3 for Console Madness. We have a beer to talk about here. This is a triple dry-hopped
triple IPA by Abomination Brewing Company.
First brew we've ever had by these guys on the channel. We went down and visited Do You Nerd in Springfield, Missouri. We found this at a really cool shop they took us to called Brown Derby. So one of the best beer selections I've ever seen anywhere in the United States, and we've been to a lot of beer shops. What do you think? You're the IPA guy.
Wow. This is creamy, juicy, flavorful, cloudy. This is so good, and I feel like this is a beer a lot of people would enjoy.
We're not beer experts per se, but we know a fair amount just through trial and error, right? It's all everything we've learned. We're street smart when it comes to beer. So a lot of times people think triple IPA is like, oh my god, I'm not a big fan of hops, or triple IPA, oh my god, that would really kick my ass.
No,
it's not that way. I feel like they get more mild the more times they're refined, if that's what the process that they do in the brewing. I don't quite know.
Yeah.
But this is very palatable. I knew you would love this. This tastes a lot like some beers that you're a really big fan of.
Yes.
Kind of like the King Sue.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Very similar to that. I don't think this is King Sue A+, best pale ale I've ever had, but this is a damn good beer. If you had to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, this is coming in a solid 9.
Yeah, this is so good. It's so creamy, so smooth. I'm drinking it slow, which is weird, but it's just so flavorful and full, and just, it's such a good beer.
You know, I love the art too, because this has the art of like a coffee stout. I feel like a fog, morning fog. It's dark and
Kind
whatever.
of reminds me of a horror film.
Yeah, but then you get this really foggy, cloudy pale ale. And this is a fantastic brew.
Good.
Guys, in the comment section below, bring it on. You've been shooting bullets, shooting arrows, ripping us apart this whole series. It's time to talk. It's time to dance. Let's go. Come on. You want to get nuts? Come on. Let's get nuts. Let's debate this thing out. The Super Nintendo and the PlayStation 1 are moving on. We appreciate you tuning in and subscribing to the channel. We'll see you next time right here on Console Madness on Gaming Off the Grid.